Hello, this is Todd Booth, your teacher, and I'm going to run through the course book chapter 1. So in the chapter 1, it's basically an introduction to networking, an introduction to the course, and what we're starting off with is describing different types of network topologies, both physical and logical, and there's a whole bunch of examples we'll go through on these. So what is a network? It's basically just some computers or communications equipment connected together. And there's different types that we'll be describing now. And what we do is we talk about hosts. And hosts are just devices that can communicate on the network. They can be anything, PCs, printers. It could be a server, client, switch, router, etc. Now what is a local area network? Well, to tell you what that is, let's just say there are things called local area networks, and there are also things called wide area networks. Local means close by, in one place, one set of equipment. And a wide area network we'll be talking about soon. Now here's some diagrams. On the right we have a hub. Right here we have a hub, and you can notice that there's just a single line here. Whereas over here we have a switch. You can see there's two arrows in each direction. So that's a little bit different. Now notice over here on the right side we have sales, while on the left we have marketing. So what we often do is we group machines into different areas of the company. So marketing will have a group of machines together, and it'll be the marketing LAN. And then there's also salespeople, and they'll have their own network as well. And they may share different servers, which could be, for example, web servers, or they may have their own dedicated servers in each department. Let's clean that up. So what do we want to do now? Connect the networks together. If we go back one slide, you can see that there's a separation. They are not connected. They're two separate networks which can not communicate. Whereas here we've introduced what's called a router, and we've connected a network on the right and a network on the left. So the router has connected two local area networks together. We have the terms hosts and workstations, and they communicate with the server. And down here we have hosts and workstations communicating with the servers over here on the right. And you may wonder, what is the difference between a workstation and a PC? And let me tell you, historically, PCs used to be slower. They cost a lot more, and they were much slower. And they could, compared to today's computers, they were so slow. And back then, when the computers were really expensive, the PCs expensive and slow, some users, power users, needed more performance, and they would have a very fast computer. And in the old days, there was a differentiation between like a normal PC, which was low power, low performance, and workstations. Because those workstations, they were high performance, but they were really expensive. Today, an Android phone is more powerful than a lot of those computers from back then. So now, my advice to you is just forget about the difference between workstations and hosts or PCs. There's really no difference. So what we talk about today mainly are clients and servers. The clients could be a PC or a mobile phone, whereas a server is like a web server. Hopefully that'll help you understand the term workstation. Okay. And down here we see the term host is for anything that has an IP address. So even a printer may have an IP address, so we call a PC a host. Also communications equipment such as a layer 2 switch or a layer 3 router, even though they're just connecting networks, they're also a host, even though you're not using it like a PC and you're not using it like a server. So what is a virtual LAN? Now this is a bit of an advanced topic, so don't worry if you don't get this right away. But here's what's going on. Remember on that previous slide here, we have, for example, a device here, and we're connecting lots of computers, and they're all in sales. Oh yeah, makes sense. And we do the same on the right with a switch. equipment, connected, marketing. Okay, and now what we're doing is something quite different. We're taking a piece of communications equipment, and here we have sales for these 3 PCs, even though the 3 PCs are connected to different communications equipment. So for now, don't worry about how it's done. Just think of it this way. Over here, these switches, there's some magic. And what you do is you tell the switch, oh, in port 5, I'm connecting to a machine which is in the sales group. Here maybe on port 2 you connect to a machine. It's also in sales. And then on the first floor maybe port 10. And by telling the switches each port, which port goes to sales, which port goes to human resources, which port goes to the engineering. By doing that, the switches talk to each other and they make sure that all the machines are put in the proper LAN. And now that we have a LAN which is connected to multiple devices, 1, 2, 3, we call it a virtual LAN, because it's kind of like we're virtually creating this network via software, even though they're connected to different switches. So what we normally do is we create a VLAN, which is also referred to as an IP subnet, and then in that we may name it sales or describe it as sales, and then we connect all the salespeople's PCs and maybe the salespeople's server. So a VLAN, it's just a group, we could call it a work group, and it's of the users in the same department who need to share the same resources. And this helps for security as well. Okay, well that's VLANs. Now, how are we going to connect networks together? If we have 2 networks and we need to connect them together, what we could do is use those normal layer 2 switches or hubs. Here's a picture of a hub. And we could connect all the networks with that. But sooner or later you have more and more and more machines. And as you will learn in this course, you don't want to have a local area network with too many machines. So when you have too many, let's call it 20, 30, 40, doesn't matter what number you pick. When you have too many, you need to break it up into 2 networks, like we've done here. We have a network on the left, and we have a network on the right, and we connect the 2 networks with a router. You can't connect 2 different networks with a hub or with a layer 2 switch. It has to be a router, and you'll learn why. But you could imagine the router has maybe 20 machines on the right, 20 machines on the left, and the router connects them together. Now a router can work either in a local environment, in a building, connecting networks in the same building, but it can also connect networks in different cities through the wide area networks. And we'll talk about that as well. So here's a picture of us connecting 2 networks, and when we do that we create an internetwork, and that means a network of networks. Now what is a VPN? This is an advanced concept, but the idea is when you have workers traveling around the world and they need to connect to your office, and here we have, for example, Dallas, a Dallas corporate office, and you have all these users with a PC and they're traveling all over the world, and here the user is connecting from wherever they are. They're going through the internet, yes, through the internet, and then connecting to the office. And that is a little bit dangerous. There's some security issues. So what we do is we have some magic software called VPN, and it creates a virtual private network. And when the user puts in the right user ID and password and other credentials, like perhaps a certificate, that user's machine can be connected to the corporate office, and it will put them onto the network as if they're locally in the office. So we talked about the previous slide where we have different groups, and we may have a group, for example, of salespeople, and when they connect to the office via the internet to make it secure, we force them to go through a VPN, which is an encrypted tunnel, and then they connect to the office, and it's as if they're locally at the office. So that's what a VPN is. We have different ways we can do networking in a local environment. We can have peer-to-peer and we can have peer-to-server or client-server. So here's peer-to-peer. In peer-to-peer, this is what you might have at your home. Maybe you have 4 PCs at your home, right? And you don't have a server. You just have 4 PCs running Windows maybe. You connect them all through a hub or a switch. And then if you want to go from, say, Pluto over here to Millie, and you want to access the files on Millie's computer, Millie can share resources and can say, oh, if someone's coming over from Pluto, then here is their password and they have read access. But what happens if you go from Pluto over to Mickey? Okay, let's go over here to Mickey. Well, on Mickey's computer, you have to say, if you're coming from Pluto, here's a password, and maybe on this computer you have full access. Now here's the problem. Here's the problem right here. Here we have a password for Pluto, it's little tail, and here we have for Pluto a password which is different. So the thing is, even if you have the same password for Pluto everywhere, what happens if Pluto wants to change their password? You have to go to all these different systems that are sharing their files, and you have to change the password for Pluto. So that's, you have to change it in 1, 2, 3 places. That's the problem with peer-to-peer networking. Let's see another way to do this. Client server. In client server, what you do is if there are any files that need to be shared with Pluto, you can put them here on the server. It's called a file server in this case. And on the file server, you can put Pluto's password, right? And then you can put all the files. And when you want to change the password for Pluto, you can change it in just one place on the server, and then Pluto can access all the files. So it's a better system. It scales. For home networks, peer-to-peer is awesome. For companies with lots of people and lots of servers, client server is awesome. So both are great, but in different ways. So let's talk about the physical topologies. Let's run through this. And before I begin, let me just say that the star is the most popular. You've got a bunch of PCs, you connect them all to a switch. But let's go through them all. So here's a physical bus. You can have this cable. It can be a long cable like RG58, coax. There's names like ThickNet, ThinNet. And then you can connect all your devices to that. So that's a bus. It's like the bus is driving along, right? And connecting to all the machines. Physical star, again, this is real popular. You really need to know this one. The idea is you have something like a hub or a layer 2 switch in the middle, and then you just connect each PC or server directly to that. Works great. Okay, here's a physical ring. I wrote a book on physical ring, on token ring, but it's not popular anymore. So we're just going to move right through this. Here's a mesh. You just connect everything to everything. That's going to cost a lot of money. It's going to be a lot of cables. And also, that means this PC over here needs to connect to 3 different cables. Very expensive. No need for it. Point-to-point. In a wider network, which you'll learn about, connecting different cities, you may have a router in Stockholm and a router in Luleå, and they connect via the phone company's cable, and this would be a serial connection. A T1 is one type of serial connection. We talked about a star. You can connect a whole bunch of PCs to the same hub or switch, but you can connect 2 PCs directly with Ethernet or wireless. So you don't need any other equipment for testing. You may wish to connect 2 PCs together directly. And then here's a picture of a cable direct to a hub or a switch. And this is by far the most common. Connect lots of PCs to a hub. You connect the hub to a router, and away you go. Most popular is number 3. Point to multipoint. Now, you may use that if your corporate office is in Stockholm, and then you have Luleå, and you have, let's see, Umeå, and maybe Piteå. And they all connect via here, which is the phone company, and they connect to the same router. So it's point to multi-point, because from here you got 1 point, 1 point, 1 point. These are all point-to-point links from the perspective of the outside router, but from the corporate router here, it's 3 links. So it's multi-point on this side. And here's a picture of a multi-point. Here we got it. It's like a point to multi-point. It's actually a mesh in this case as well, but we're connecting different cities with microwave. Hybrid means some of this and some of that. And I don't like the example they're using, physical star logical bus. But a hybrid means you're taking 2 topologies and using them. Backbones and segments. Well, we have all of these little tiny local area networks. Here's a local area network for marketing. Here's a local area network for sales, right? We got a whole bunch of them. And then what we can do is have this magic name called a backbone, and the backbone will connect sales, it'll connect marketing, it'll connect other departments, and the backbone will also connect, guess what? A bunch of servers. So that's the concept of a backbone. The backbone, the idea is it's not normally connecting hosts. It'll normally connect to a hub which connects machines. It connects to a switch which has machines. But notice from the backbone it doesn't actually touch these PCs here. There's a device in between, a hub or a switch. So that's the idea of a backbone. So a summary, we have talked about networking, and we're starting with topology. We've used some terms like client server. The book has some great exam sections. It has some great written labs. You need to do all the written labs and all the review questions. And we're gonna have the Moodle set up so you can submit all of your answers to the written labs and review questions. Okay, well that was it. It was pretty quick. It was just 17 minutes. And I wasn't actually planning to do all this stuff like talking about the book, because remember, I'm not here to repeat and regurgitate everything to you, but maybe this is helpful. I'm just going to try it. I'm going to let students vote on it. If you like it, I'll just keep doing it. Okay, that's it for now. Bye now.